I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 5 of The Last of Us series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to HBO Max, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Oh, hello. Welcome into the show. Joining with me to break down everything that happened in episode 5 of The Last of Us series, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Endure and survive.
Endure and survive.
Holy shit,
Man.
after this episode. Whew. I needed to dance a little bit to our intro music to get me ready for the
Bring a little levity.
the brutalness of this episode. It's just been weighing on me since watching it.
Yeah.
Holy shit,
Absolutely.
man. Okay, so super brutal episode. Episode 5. We've been saying this. We knew this was going to like these things were happening. Like we know big things like this were going to be happening. So the only thing my brain could do was look for the kind of lighthearted thing that I could find, the one or two lighthearted things I could find in this episode. And that is, well, at least we know that comic books survive the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So good news for those comic book fans out there. They apparently last through the apocalypse. But holy shit. Yeah, I'm going to get into some of the brutal stuff that I guess more into some of the brutal stuff for takeaways. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions to episode 5?
Yeah, this was heartbreaking. Absolutely. Of course, players of the game know how Henry and Sam's story goes, and unlike the happy ending that we got with Bill and Frank, that was a deviation from the games. This was one of those moments where you can't really deviate all that much. But it's also like, you had to give some lighthearted or I guess like, happy ending storylines to some characters. Otherwise, this is going to be like the most depressing show of all time because it doesn't stop with Henry and Sam, unfortunately. But so talking about kind of like the way the show is faithful to the game and also how it deviates at the same time. This storyline is kind of a perfect example of it because the changes they made to Sam in particular, him being like much younger than he is in the game and also being deaf, were two kind of major changes to the character that worked in a very more impactful way, of course, and made it that much more heartbreaking to see what happens to him later on in the episode, of course. But man, top notch acting from beginning to end from everybody. Standouts really being kind of, of course, Joel and Ellie are always great in their roles. They have some particularly amazing moments in this episode for sure. But Melanie Linsky as Kathleen, of course, kind of brought this character to a different level. And also Lamar Johnson as Henry just absolutely killed it. There's really not much more you can say other than that. It's just really the way they make these changes from the game to the show. Even like just and enhances the story even more. It's just kind of a testament to how good the original story really is. But yeah, this had pretty much everything from hilarious, like, little comedy moments from when, we get the perspective of Henry and Sam when they first meet Joel and Ellie, and then the funny little exchange between them, like, no, that's just his asshole voice. Like he's fine, and then he just continues to like go deeper into that cold emotional voice to throw him off even more. Was he really good? And just kind of watching this kind of relationship between them grow over the course of the episode was really fascinating to watch, and of course that culminates in the most brutal way, but that's where the show really excels at its best.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go in, because I mean, we could spend the entirety of our recap video just on instant reactions to this episode. But you want to get to some big takeaways?
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick us off first with this, and I just have to say this first. This isn't my full takeaway, but holy shit, that horde of clickers coming out of the ground was terrifying.
Yeah, bloaters.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna let you get to that. I wasn't even gonna
Yeah.
mention bloaters because I knew you were excited. You were amped up for bloaters.
Very excited for the bloater.
The last video recap that we did for Last of Us, you were already like mentioning bloaters and how excited you were for that. So I wasn't even gonna get into the bloaters in general. I was just that particular part where they just all come rushing out. Oh man, that was terrifying. Like,
boy, that escalated quickly.
I mean, if you've watched anything in like, I know there's a debate online if we're calling this like zombie related or if we're just like calling it infected and stuff like that. But no matter what, if you've watched like zombie movies or in that genre of infected individuals and stuff like that, hordes are always scary. But what's even more terrifying is when hordes can run. And it just immediately made me think of you remember 28 Days Later, where it was like the rage virus, and they just sprinted around like crazy.
Yeah,
I had instant flashbacks of that, like that kind of terrifying. Because like if that is like if we ever have a zombie apocalypse, and that's the level of infected that we get, I'm done. I'm done.
World War Z type stuff where they're just like they're climbing up each other.
Look, adrenaline. I can run for a little while with adrenaline, but you can only run so fast for so long before you're just,
cardio.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. So yeah, that sight was terrifying to me. That whole scene in general was just chaos, and I mean, you could see it, when they would pan over or they'd flash over, I guess, to Joel's face when he was up in the window and kind of watching it all unfold, because there was nothing he could do. Like there was no way he could get down in enough time to help them. So he had to like, pick off infected just as he could, as he could go through it. But that whole scene, man, that was like perfect. Just like here, like we're going to give you like the most terrifying scene that we can possibly give you with a horde of clickers. Like that was awesome. That whole scene, like I said, terrified in the best way possible. But also, I wanted to kind of, as another takeaway, kind of go back to what you were saying on how we did have these, moments of more lighthearted stuff. And just like I said at the very beginning of the episode, I'm going to touch on the lighthearted stuff just because this episode in general was so brutal. And we played the game. We know things that are going to happen, and we know that kind of stuff. So, to see, and I said this in the Bill and Frank episode, to be able to, make us care about characters in a very short period of time is something special. And I really think that this series in particular does such a good job of showing us quick moments, but key moments to show us and get us kind of emotionally connected to characters, that just makes what actually happens to them weigh so much heavier on the audience, basically. And that really just goes to show how much effort and care is really going into the creation of the show in general. Not only the game, because you have to have good source material, and that they do, but also the care that they are putting into to either make the deviations, like we said originally, either make the deviations slim or way better to add to the whole story overall, has just been perfect so far. I really feel like that. And yeah, I mean, just seeing Ellie and Sam connect on a level of, kids with comic books. and just on a
And coming from the game too.
yeah.
That was just
That's
cool.
that's another really cool like attention to detail that and anyone who's played the game can really appreciate all these little attentions to detail. I mean, we had the puns book that came back into effect, and that's right
The
out of the
soccer
video game.
scene is
Yeah,
directly out of the game. Yeah, it's
yeah.
all
But
there.
but to see Ellie kind of actually being a kid, like not like having to really worry about things for a little while, even though they were really in a tight spot. I mean, they're in underground tunnels trying to escape the city, and these tunnels, they didn't know if they were cleared out or not. They were taking the word of a rumor, basically, that they had heard that these tunnels were completely empty. But just to have that moment of lightheartedness, to see Ellie and Sam kind of be able to behave like kids for a little while, just made the back half of the episode that much more brutal and that much more just holy shit type of thing. Like, that's the only way I can really describe it. But anyway, Rico, what were some of your takeaways from episode 5?
Yeah, so we'll kind of circle back to a few different things you talked about. Well, one, the horde of infected, the runners, the clickers, the bloated, the one big bloater. One, how this whole episode kind of ties in all these the storylines that were set up in the last episode, especially with Kathleen and everybody. But the way they kind of take Henry and Sam's journey going into like this whole the takeover, right? This kind of that happened, and it only happened 10 days before, right? We see this kind of flashback of what happened, and things are still pretty fresh. That's why Kathleen or people like she's the organizer, but they're still like figuring things out kind of as they were going along. But yeah, because the way they kind of intertwine the timelines there, and the way we got to see the shootout from the last episode from Henry and Sam's point of view and everything, and then seeing how they eventually meet was all really well handled. I really like the way this show utilizes going back in time, whether it's going back decades, like to the 60s, or back to when the virus first came to be, right? But even if they're just going back 10 days and just showing you what happened there, or the stuff with Frank and Bill leading up to that. Like, all the flashbacks do such a great job of adding context to whatever the story that they're trying to tell at the moment. And it does a great job of kind of setting up more who Kathleen really is. You see, like, the more and more you see it from her, she's kind of like this really cold person, and she's willing to do some pretty dark stuff. She's telling people right to their face, like, you'll go on trial, but you're gonna lose, and this is what's gonna happen to you. And
No matter of fact, too. She's not like,
very matter of fact, like, she's got very emotionless, and she's telling them straight up, like, yeah, and it's because you're a rat, and we don't like you. And it kind of draws this. What the show does a really great job of kind of drawing the lines of morality, but also blurring them at the same time, because obviously from the perspective of Joel, we're seeing someone who's obviously a good person at heart, but he's admitted, I've had to do bad things. I've had to be on that other side where I've had to fake being hurt to lure people in and do bad stuff to them. So, and that also plays into the relationship between him and Henry, where at first he's like, I don't work with rats, what they call them, collaborators, in the show. But he goes, I don't work with a rat. And he goes, okay, like, why? They kind of learn each other's story, and then later on they have that really great moment where he goes, like, I kind of judged you harshly earlier on, and I learned your story, and and he kind of apologizes to him at that point. So I love moments like that where you're kind of just getting these human moments set in really tense situations, but there's still growth happening between everyone as well. But also people are getting their comeuppance, because there's that great moment when Kathleen finally confronts Henry, and you think, okay, she's going to shoot him. Like, this is going to be the moment. And she was totally about to. And just as she's talking about how this kid's life is not important, that horrifying little gymnast clicker girl that was about to get Ellie in the van comes up and just just shows right on her, and then just starts hacking at her face. Remind me of X-23 from Logan a little bit.
Yeah.
The way she kind of went into that little like berserker rage on her. And couldn't happen to a better person, in my opinion. But and then also her boy Perry getting his head ripped off by the bloater was also a pretty wild visual to see. Even though it was in the background blurred, you still see it happening. You're like, dang, that was pretty wild. But so yeah, the show provides so many great emotional moments, because of course we're laughing, we're cheering when we see Kathleen get just absolutely murked by that little girl, we're feeling horror and dread when we see that little girl pop up in the van in the first place. And then we end it with heartbreak and tears, of course, of what would eventually happen with Henry and Sam. And of course, Bella Ramsey's powerful performance at the end of that episode with of course the final shot, the Woody Woodpecker drawing pad. And it furthermore it kind of it puts her character to another level because like she had that attachment. That attachment was immediately ripped apart, and it kind of feeds into that kind of cold Joel like person that she could grow to be, and that's where they kind of need each other to balance each other out now. So much to talk about in this episode. I kind of went on there, but this is an amazing episode to really just kind of dive into this different themes and different moments to really talk about. So this was one of my favorite episodes of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, just like you said, it had so much stuff. I mean, there's just a couple of things that I want to react to that you were talking about. Number one, that little girl clicker, just like you said, that's a real little kid gymnast.
Yeah.
Did that. Like, that's not just like all fake CGI. I'm sure there's a little bit of CGI there, but
yeah, gymnast and contortionist. I think,
yeah,
for the other thing. Yeah,
she is a professional gymnast, contortionist. Like, terrifying. Like, I saw a picture of her and she's sitting on a couch with like upside down and stuff. Like,
man,
terrifying. But also, like, yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, that performance by Bella Ramsey at the end, it speaks so many volumes because, like, just like I was saying, she kind of had that attachment with Sam where they were kind of able to experience just like being kids for that short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the next day, I mean, we're talking one day, it was ripped away from her immediately.
Right.
And that, I mean, oh man, as soon as he lifted up his pant leg, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
No. She goes, my blood is magic. No. It doesn't.
Yeah,
work
that's like the childlike part of her that comes into play. Like, obviously, like as I was watching too, I was like, that's not how vaccines work, kid. But she doesn't know any better. She thinks that, you know, my blood is what's gonna fix people. If I can just do this, that's just kind of like that. Like, dang, like I'm attached to this person. I have hope. I like, just give me a little bit of hope here. And of course, you know, we've learned how long the effects of a bite take on depending on where you bite, based on the little charts they had at the beginning of the first episode. So, you know, the leg was going to take a little bit longer. She falls asleep, and it's brutal.
As soon as she woke up and he was sitting on the bed with his back turned to her, I was like, just get out of that room. Just get out of that room. Like, that is right there. Do you remember the remake of Dawn of the Dead, where that little kid somehow gets in and then starts running at the husband type of thing and just like attaches that? I mean, flashbacks immediately of that scene because that scene's terrifying too. But yeah, and then what Henry has to do, and then he can't even live with what he had to do. Oh man,
yeah, it's gut wrenching for sure. But it's funny because we talk about this the whole, like, you know, the cordyceps versus zombie concept of this, which you know, they bring up, you know, the way the fungus take over the ants' brains, of course, and turn them into what they call zombie ants. But you know, Sam has that moment where he writes down, like, if you turn into a monster, is it still you inside? And they've talked about the way, like, the cordyceps kind of like they bypass the brain, and like even the person could still be in there and also just not be in control of what they're doing. And that's when, you know, you see the clicker part of them come out when it's pushing out of their face. So they've talked about how this all works, and they still don't really know it too. And there was the moment, I don't know if it was the last episode, the episode before they meet Henry and Sam, where you know, Ellie stares into the eyes of that one trapped infected, and I think she's still trying to figure that out for herself too. So I think that was the interesting part of that, where it's like maybe Sam was still in there fighting, but until like the cordyceps reaction came into play when he heard Ellie, that's when he just no longer had control, and that's what had to happen. So it's a gut wrenching idea to think about, but it also adds to the high level detail they put into the show, and what goes into the thinking that goes into these type of creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions for us?
Okay, So again, we every week we gotta say it. We're never spoiling what we've seen in the game for people who have not played the game yet. But based off of the here's the next episode previews, we know that we're gonna reunite with Tommy. So we're gonna get that character back and we're gonna see what he's up to. So I think that's gonna be another great character to kind of play into Joel and Ellie's character arc later on in this timeline, because I would definitely love to see what kind of character Tommy is turned into compared to the when everything first started, when we first saw him. So that will be all pretty fun to watch, and I'm always looking forward to more infected scenes and stuff that just copies the game shot for shot. There was a lot of that in this episode, like the whole the sniper scenes where Joel has to sneak around, and another great moment, by the way, where he doesn't want to shoot that guy, but he ends up having to do it. And the way they always portray Joel doing violence off camera, and it's always from Ellie's point of view, I feel like, which is always a weird way they do, like a cutaway to Ellie, and then you hear the shot go off and you see her react to it, and then the way she shot the guy in the last episode, you see it from her perspective, not from his. So the really fascinating ways they kind of portray how characters see other characters in the show. And I'm really excited to see big moments for Joel and Ellie in the next episodes.
Same. I mean, pretty much going off of your prediction. I mean, just like you said, and we always say, like, we kind of know the big events that are going to happen, but how we get there, we don't really know, because there are these small deviations that have been phenomenal so far, and really, help make the story feel fresh while still, having these Easter eggs and these shot for shot scenes every once in a while that make us cheer, and then just having these little extra things that also just build on it and make it fascinating, whether you've played the game already or whether you haven't played the game already. I think the way that they kind of add those little pieces in to make things better just really enriches the entire story overall. And I mean, just like you said, I'm really excited to see kind of what Tommy's been up to. I mean, we got like really brief blur when Joel and Ellie were camping of what kind of Tommy's been up to since the apocalypse kind of started, type of thing. But I'm really interested to see, what happens with him next. And is he just going to stick with them from now on, or is he just a means to get to go somewhere different? And then they're going to be, back on their way to get to this camp that, Joel has been trying to get Ellie to this whole time anyway. So I'm really interested to see, the interaction between Ellie and Tommy also. Just because, I mean, Joel is kind of has these really mixed feelings, because obviously, he lost his daughter at the beginning of this whole thing, and he's kind of grown this very tough outer shell to kind of not really let himself, get taken advantage of, get, overtake ever, type of thing. And we're starting to kind of see that those walls come down between Joel and Ellie. But Tommy hasn't been there for this type of thing. He saw the whole thing that originally happened to Joel's daughter at the beginning of everything. So I'm wondering, what his exterior has turned into, or has happened since that event also. Because I've got to imagine, because he was living at the house with Joel and his daughter at the beginning anyway. So it's not just like a random uncle. It's like, this was the uncle that was living with us, type of thing. So he also, he was almost like a surrogate parent also, type of thing. So he also lost a child in this whole experience. So I'm wondering, if we're going to see the difference between Tommy and Joel as far as the approach to, Ellie in this, and we'll really see kind of the differences, I guess, from what's already kind of happened between Joel and Ellie, as far as getting closer and tearing down some of the walls that Joel had already built up. I'm wondering if Tommy's going to be back to where Joel was when we got to when they first met Ellie, basically. But other than that, I'm excited to see more the progression of the story between, Joel and Ellie, and when are we going to get to the Fireflies? Like, when's the next meetup? Like,
Right.
I mean, there's got to be, are we going to get some military intervening at some point, like to kind of make this, like, I feel like there's just so many enemies out there. It's like, I don't know which one's going to come up next.
Well, that's like the video game part of it too. Like, where
Right.
you fought so many different aspects of enemies. So whether it was the infected or Fireflies or Fedra, like
Right.
it kind of feels like all of them should be coming into play at some point. But I think that's what's so great about this show is that it just leans into them just being a part of the world, and then if they fit into what they need to go to, they'll do it. But yeah, we were you talking about kind of like the way Joel and Tommy both perceive Ellie, like the different perspectives they could have on how to handle her, I guess. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing because he still sees her as cargo, right? He tells her that you're cargo, and then in this episode, there's that funny moment where Henry goes like, "Your dad's kind of pessimistic," and then they both at the same time were like, "Not my dad, I'm not her dad." So they clearly don't like. It's a mutual feeling between them right now. So like, there's a respect between them, but they still don't like see each other as more than what they are to them, right? Like, that's the part we're still waiting to grow. That is kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing that grow from the cargo to you are like, I see you as like Sarah now.
I think a big part of that is from the end of this episode and the beginning of the next episode. I see that there being a very big change because Joel saw what she wrote on the writing
they play a big
pad,
part of that,
and he knows now, like, holy shit, she is really like, this is hitting her very, very hard. And I could see him, like, I can see that, like, that perspective between the two of them shifting a lot between the end of this episode and the next one, because, just like we've said, Joel is ultimately a good person.
Mm-hmm.
He's had to do very bad things, as he said, but he feels remorse for them, even when he still has to do bad things. Like just like you said, when he went up into the top of that house, he was like, "Don't make me do this.
Yeah,
just put your gun down, kick it to me. I don't want, like, don't make me do this." And so you really get these bits and pieces, and when, like, he wanted to help out Sam and his brother, like, he agreed to help them because he really does care about people. Mm-hmm. He's just had to put this guard up. Obviously, everyone, to survive the apocalypse, you have to. Like, there's so many, there's so many different ways you can die, basically. And trusting the wrong person is ultimately the easiest way to die.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways, for sure.
So for good reason, he has walls up and stuff like that. But any chance that they get, they do show you that Joel is ultimately a good person. And so I think seeing how heavy the events at the end of the episode affected Ellie, I think we are going to see kind of a very big change.
Shift.
We're gonna start seeing that very close bond between Joel and Ellie. I think very soon. I think by the end of the next episode, I think that's it. Like, we're gonna see that ultimate change where Joel is protecting Ellie as much as possible. It's not just cargo, Ellie's family, stuff like that. And that's kind of, if I could predict anything, that's my prediction, is because the way that the last episode 5 ended, I think that's where we're going to start seeing that big shift is the next episode. So, but anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 5? Holy shit, it was brutal. And what do you think is going to happen next in episode 6? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest video and audio podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.